Have you had a lifelong dream in owning your own business? Allow Stephanie Corals at Nitara Marketing to help you with all of your marketing needs. Nitara specializes in modern logo design, website development, app development, social media marketing presence, and search engine optimization. Nitara's team has a passion, skill set, and experience in digital services to help them guide you through your web development journey. They have happy clients as well. Owner of In-State Business Solutions, LLC, Cameron Shaw said, "Keep doing what you're doing. My experience with you and your team has been great." Contact Stephanie and Nitara at 866-752-8461 or email services@nitaramarketing.com. Enough looking at impressions. Let's impress the world. Frustrated with your pain? Team Rehabilitation of Kokomo, Indiana can help you find the solution. We give free injury screens. Call to schedule yours today at 765-416-6630. We're located at 613 West Lincoln Road, just west of the South End Post Office. Hello everyone, this is JC Barnett, and this is 1032 Podcast Conversations with JC and Taf. First of all, I would just like to lead off by thanking our sponsors. And first up is Team Rehabilitation. Dwayne Ewing and the folks over at Team Rehabilitation are doing a fabulous job of getting people back on their feet again, whether it's after a surgery, an ankle sprain, a muscle pull, and so much more. They are doing a wonderful job of getting people back on their feet again as quickly as possible. Make it a point to go and see them. It's a wonderful atmosphere and environment over at Team Rehabilitation, and you don't want to be there long, but if you can get in there, get rehabbed, and get back on your feet again, they are the people to do it. All right. Also, Stephanie Corals and Miles Lenore over at Nitara Marketing, helping people enhance website capabilities, social media presence, help people design logos, and just their overall branding on a daily basis. They're doing a wonderful job. So if you need assistance growing your business, they are absolutely the folks that you need to go and see. All right. So my man Travis here. Today we're talking about money. Mm-hmm. There's so many different perspectives on money, depending on how you grew up, depending on after you've grown up, what money looks like for you in your life right now. So I'm kind of going to have Travis lead this conversation and kick this thing off with his perspective on money.
Yeah, they tell you, not to talk about money, politics, and religion, and those are some of my three favorite things to talk about. So money, some people it's like, oh, you got to get it. It'll do everything for you. And some folks it's like, oh, stay away from it. It causes so much trouble and everything in between. But, the Bible literally has around 2,000 verses in it in regards to money. Mm-hmm. So it's a big part of everything. It's part of our world. It's part of our economy. And I think growing up, I was really blessed because my family did not come from a lot of money. We owned our own house. My dad drove a car with a hole in the floorboard. We drove used cars, so we appreciated money, but we did not have it. And I remember my mom telling stories when she used to go to the grocery store back in the day. She'd have a calculator, and she knew exactly how much she could spend and write that check. And but we weren't poor where we had where we didn't. We always had heat in the house. We always ate. We always had water. We always had transportation. So it was really I'm thankful it was a nice balance of not knowing what wealth was like, but also not knowing what poverty was like. It really was truly kind of in the middle. So that's a little bit what I believe about money and how I was raised. How were you raised in regards to money? What do you think about when you even hear the word?
Yeah, I came up in a middle-class family. Both of my parents, we were blessed to both worked at Delphi, which is now, GM. But I didn't have any concerns. My parents, as far as material things, my parents drove decent cars, nice cars. We didn't have concern about where we were going to live. We didn't have concern about if we were going to eat. And so in that regard, we were very, very blessed. So, coming up that way, I just wanted and knew that at the very least, that's what I wanted to be able to provide for my family. But times are different. I have 4 kids versus my parents. By the time my parents had 3 kids altogether, but by the time I was 10 years old, I was the only one still in the house. So for a larger portion of my life, I would say it was really just kind of me in the household, and it was in 80s and 90s. And so that looks a little different for me. I wouldn't say that me and my family are doing as well in this economy as my parents were, just because of those differences. But still very, very blessed. If we're looking at this from a faith standpoint, I don't ever feel a need to worry or be concerned about money, just because I know that the Lord is going to provide for me and my family. And we'll get into it here in just a moment, but from directly a finance standpoint, there are some practical things that I'm doing that I apply to my life and that help our family to live and thrive and survive. And I hope that you guys out there, young people especially, can listen to and apply to your own lives.
Yeah, I want to start off by just telling people the best gift we got for my wedding. Me and my wife were married 18 years ago, and of course you get, cooking utensils and lamps and things on your registry. But someone bought us a course with Crown Financial, and it was probably $70 or $80. And at first I was kind of like, oh, okay, they signed me up for a financial literacy class.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really mean this. It was the best wedding gift we got. A lot of the pots and pans and lamps are broke or not in our possession anymore. Yeah. But what we learned from that training, it was called Crown Financial. There's also Dave Ramsey. There's a lot of them out there. It doesn't necessarily matter which one you use, but I suggest using them. And it's just education's important. And I came from a family where one of my parents was a little bit more of a spender and one was more of a saver, so I did have some balance. But it's extremely important because career-wise, we're not all financial advisors. We're not all bankers. We're not all investment gurus. But personally, we're all those things, so you have to be trained and educated in it. And I think the worst thing you can do is just kind of wing it and just kind of think it's going to fall into place, because it's just like farming. You reap what you sow, and money is one of those things that it's worth sowing. It's worth putting in the time. And again, the Bible was my guide. It talks about I don't own it, that it's his in the first place. I'm just a steward.
Right.
And that mentality changed the way I spend, changes the way I give, it changes the way I tithe, it changes the way I invest. It affects everything. So what we're going to talk today about, isn't 100 things to do to become wealthy. It's not going to be a to-do list or a checklist, because you can go get a book from the library, you can learn how to invest, you can learn all those things. What we're really going to hit on today is the heart. And if the heart's right, then we believe then financial peace or your financial life can be something that is stable and is something that you can leave for your children and your grandchildren and leave that legacy.
Yeah. And you said it. My trust and faith in the Lord is absolutely my guide. And so in Malachi 3, it says, and I truly take the Lord at his word when he says this. In Malachi 3, it says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Test me in this. And this is really the only area that he asks us to test him in. So I'm testing you, Lord. And so back in those days, in Bible days, it not only was about money, a tenth of the produce of the land, whether grain or fruit. So everybody doesn't have a vineyard. Everybody doesn't have farmland. Everybody doesn't have oxen to produce. And so oftentimes it's money for us in this day and age. And so a tenth of my tithe every Sunday goes to the house of the Lord. And he has shown up for me and my family beyond measure, beyond what I have given to him. And so in testing him in that, I have found him that to be true. And so, some of the more real life things that I'll kind of get into the meat of it here is one of the things that I really try to do for my family is to minimize debt. Mm-hmm. I think it's easily accessible to get a credit card and say, okay, I'm going to swipe this card. I'm going to be able to afford and get everything that I want. But at the end of the day, these are funds that you have to pay back. Mm-hmm. And so I also think that it is good to have a credit card if you're using it responsibly. And so if you're able to use it in a manner that in which you can use it and be able to pay it off sooner rather than later, then things turn out favorably for you and your family and your overall finances.
Yes, and again, there's different kinds of debts. It's really hard to buy a house without having some debt. Going to college is another one that I feel like is good. Right. Besides those two, it gets a little tricky. Car debt, it was something that my family didn't do, and it's something that I don't do. I try not to buy a car that I just can't pay for, because the car costs $12,000. Well, if you finance it, it costs you $15,000. So you just paid $3,000. Yeah, they let you pay it over 3 years. Mm-hmm. But I would rather own my car and maybe it be a little bit junkier and maybe not as nice than to go into debt, because debt is a tricky place, and it can cause trouble. So my 3 keys, the first one was doing that training and that education. Wherever it is, whether it's Crown Financial, Dave Ramsey, or something else out there, put in that time. The second one is literally write down your budget. And it seems dumb, it seems almost elementary, but I believe the key to all finances is budgeting. And you don't know until you write it down. It's just like when you ask someone do you eat healthy? Yeah. Well, write down everything you eat for 3 days. And when you put it on paper, you realize, whoa, I snack more than I thought, or I eat more desserts than I thought, or I don't eat enough vegetables. Yeah. And when it comes to budget, this is the big one. I truly believe so many people think, how much money do I need to make to live? But you can also ask the question, what can I not spend on? What can I not spend money on to live? Right. You don't always have to increase. You can decrease your spending, or you can increase your income. Yeah. And everybody wants to increase their income. Yeah. And decreasing your spending is actually easier. In fact, in high school, I did my thesis, senior paper, on 2-income household. And I found that people that had stay-at-home parents and had 1 income would a lot of times be doing better than people that had 2 incomes. Why? Because the 2-income people, they were getting their clothes dry cleaned. They were spending money on childcare. Yeah. They were spending money on food, eating, instead of the person that was home was doing the laundry, making food. And it can be a woman or a male. That's not important. Right. But having someone at home actually either was a wash or saved them money than having a 2-income household in a lot of situations. So, again, a lot of people always want to make more, but it says in the word that the love of money is the root of all evils, because you can't serve God and money. And money's not evil, right, but the love of it is. So it's so important to realize that you don't just have to go out there and make more money, you can spend less. And
Yeah.
what that looks like for our family is not eating out and shopping at Aldi. What it looks like is buying a used car instead of a new car. What it looks like is going to Goodwill instead of going to an actual store and buying the clothes new. Right. So, and people maybe not want to hear that, but you can't spend what you don't have.
Right.
And I like to give. I like to bless our community, and it's pretty cool. Like I've never made a lot of money at Bridges, and my wife stayed at home, and we've always been able to make it and do fine, and even have money to give, because we really value budgeting and not spending money on things that we don't need. Yeah. We cut cable. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 31. I was just, if I walk to work instead of drive, if I can save gas money, all this. And again, we're not going to give you 100 things to do, because you can all find those in your own ways, but just looking at that. So number 1, training. Number 2, budgeting. And then 3 leads to the practical side of it. Spending, saving, giving, investing, kind of having a plan for all of those areas. The foundation is steps 1 and 2, and then you flush it out through step 3.
Yeah. There was something that you touched on earlier in reference to, in my note here, think about and be conscious of the cost. Consider ways to achieve quality at a fair or manageable price. And that's everything that, I try to structure things around saving and helping finance things for my family. And a huge part of it for us, personally, from a personal standpoint, are cars. Yeah. Trying to find the best way for our household of 4 kids, continuing to have reliable vehicles, but not paying an arm and a leg. And that's really hard. That's really hard to do for a lot of people. And so it's trying to do different things like that. Eating out less. My son loves Jordans. Son, you're gonna grow out of it in 3 months anyway. So I'm not buying you 20 pairs of shoes in the same size. I know a lot of you parents out there can relate. I'm not getting ready to buy you 100 pairs of shoes at the same size when they're going to be done. Yeah. We're going to be done with them. So just being conscious and thinking about things like that, thinking ahead of the game, is really, really huge.
Yeah, it's a misconception that a lot of people think people that are poor go bankrupt, but honestly, the middle class go bankrupt the most. And to my point, a great question to ask is, for your family, how much is enough? How much is enough? And because if we don't ask that question, what happens when we get a raise, we take that money and then we go buy something. And then that something needs insurance. And that something needs maintenance. And that something needs fuel. And next thing you know, we might not even have helped our financial position, even though we got a raise. Right. So it's very important to ask what is enough, because it's easy to fall into the trap. More. Well, more things need more insurance and more maintenance and more TLC. And it's just, we have a saying where we use possessions, we love people. Don't flip that. Right. Don't love possessions and use people. Yeah. And it's important to know what you own and what owns you. And one good thing to do is just get rid of something. Every once in a while, our family will kind of cleanse and we'll simplify, and we'll literally sell almost everything that we have or just get rid of it, just so that it doesn't own us. And back to the sports, my kids wore used cleats every sport. We never bought them new because their feet are growing. Right. They might not even like the sport after they play it. So we just got good shoes, which consequently they don't cause blisters because they're already worked in. Yeah. You don't want a new mitt. You want an old baseball mitt. Right. Those are the good ones. So sometimes you'd have to buy new, but a lot of times there's nothing wrong with reusing stuff, and it teaches our kids. But we told them why we do it. You know, we probably could buy you that, but we're not going to, because we like supporting your aunt who's in Africa, and we like supporting your uncle who's in Saipan, and we like supporting ministries here in Kokomo.
Right. So for our buzzer beater, really kind of want to wrap up some of the thoughts that we were having, but a final point that I kind of wanted to make was that life is unpredictable. If we manage our money in such a manner that we can avoid having to deplete our entire savings, then that's just what's better, just for our individuals and people who have families. But then, like you said earlier, we're living our lives in such a manner that people are first. It's not about material possessions, but people are first. How can we use the minimal material possessions that we have to enhance and enrich the lives of other people in love and compassion? That is what our goal is. And so we have to have resources in order to be able to do that, and we have to be good stewards of those resources.
Right, and again, if you budget, you'll know about how much you spend a month, and it's good to have 3 to 6 months in case something happens, because something's going to happen, whether it's a roof, the furnace, a sickness, something with the car, something's going to happen. So you want to save, but you're not saving to become rich. You're saving to just be wise. And there's so much good biblical wisdom out there when it comes to finances. Again, I just encourage people to dig in, to sow in this area, whether it's reading good books or taking a class or watching podcasts or videos on financial management. Again, we're not here to give you investment ideas or strategies or anything like that.
I am not the expert.
But take some time to get it on paper, to do a budget, and then to ask how much is enough, and to know some of those answers, and then you might need to tighten up the belt a little bit. I love your point. You know, if you can't get rid of all your debt, well, get rid of one, and then what you're paying for that one, rolling that one into the next one, and then eventually you can get out of that. And we mentioned this in another podcast, but owning your own home is a really good way of being financial stable. So we care about you. We want our community to be financial literate, and we just encourage you to educate yourself, jump in there, don't be afraid of money, figure it out for you and your family, and the Word of God is a great guide.
Yeah, absolutely. People first. Can't go wrong with that mind frame. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is 1032 Podcast, Conversations with JC and Taf. Thank you so much.